Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today we are going to discuss about the SQL top 50 questions asked in many interviews, and it's available in the Leetcode. So already we made one video as Leetcode SQL Part 1, where I have explained all this first 5 problems, which is all about deals with select. It's a simple, straightforward one. So you can find the link in the description box of this video. So this Leetcode SQL 50 has been like categorized into 6 parts. The first one is select, and the second set of questions are all these problems are basic joins. Okay, so now in this part 2 video we are going to discuss all these problems. Okay, so now I'll just start with the first problem. Okay, so if you just open this, right, so you will see this, the first problem. So if you are new to Leetcode, right, so Leetcode is a platform where you can practice SQL, Python, Java. So any of the problems you can able to discuss here, you can able to solve here, you can able to practice here, and these are the questions that repeatedly asked in many interviews. Okay, fine. So because many interviewers use this Leetcode to ask questions to the candidates. Fine. So here the problem is it's all about joins, guys, just simple joins. Okay, no complex. Okay, so if you see here, right, we have like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 easy questions and 2 medium. Okay, medium hard. Okay, fine. So the question is replace employee ID with unique identifier. Okay, that is a question. So you have two tables here. In one table you have ID and name, and the second table you have ID and unique ID. Okay, now the question is write a solution to show the unique ID of each user. If user doesn't have a unique ID, replace with null. So that means, see, you have a table here. In the first table you have employees. This is the first table, employee ID, employee name. And in the second table called employee UNI, where each employee will have their unique ID. Okay, so employee will have unique ID. So what this particular company is doing is, for every employee they are planning to give an employee ID and unique ID for the employee. Now the problem what we have to solve is, they want us to list all the employee names who got the unique ID, and the remaining who didn't get, it should be null. Okay, so if you see here, right, if you take this table, employee table, whereas if you see okay, let's take the second table, employee UNI. In employee UNI we have something called ID equal to 3. So this ID is nothing but the employee ID, and that means in the first table you have one ID column, right, and that is also employee ID. That means you can join the ID column of employee with ID column in employee UNI. So here 3 means which user? Okay, so this user, Jonathan. So Jonathan is getting unique ID 1. Next, 11, right? Who is 11? Yeah, Mayor is 11. And for Mayor, we are getting 2 as a unique ID. And 90, who is 90? Like Winston. Winston is 90. Right, and Winston is getting 3. And who is not getting? Because whose employee ID is not there in the second table? 1 and 7 is not there. So that means Alice and Bob will not get the value, unique ID. Instead, we should give them null, because that's what the question is. See, that's what the question is. If user doesn't have a unique ID, replace that with null. Okay, that means the output will be, for Alice and Bob it should be null. For the rest of the user, we have to give them the unique ID here. That's it, so simple. Now let's get into the practical part. So here I just created the inserts and create tables stuff. So here the inserts what I have given is different from what you have seen in the Leetcode. The reason, this is the purposefully I did this, because in the interview they will give the problem, but the exact input, the data will not be there. It will be different only. So you should not get confused. It's all about the problem and how we solve. It's not about the data inside the table. Okay, fine. So we have two tables, employee UNI, but I have the data also inserted here, but it's a different data. Okay, now I'll just do a select of both the table, employee and employee UNI. So here you can see here ID, we have to join with the second table ID. And here if you see 1 and 2 only available in the second table. That means Alice and Bob only got the unique ID. Rest Charlie and David doesn't get the unique ID. Okay, for Charlie and David, it should be null. Right. So now let's start writing the code. And one important thing is, whenever I ask people to do a join between two tables with a common column, people used to see the name of the column is matching. No, it is not that like that. It won't work that way. Okay. See, even this employee's ID column would be like ID1. The name would be ID1, may or may not. Right. And employee UNI ID column can be ID2 or ID3 something. So it's not when someone asks you to join two tables, the common condition, right? So we search for the common columns between the two table, and that means the data inside the table makes us to feel okay, this particular column we can consider to join. It's not about the column name, because I remember one of the student when I was in a workshop, and when I asked him to identify the common column between the table to join, he was searching for the column name which is same in both the table. Okay, so it won't work in that way. Okay, so it's all like, it's a mistake, that's fine, even I did that. Okay, so it's about the data. Now imagine that you are technically strong, but you don't know which column from table 2 should be joined with table 1 because you have 1000 columns in the table. Then you don't want to worry about it in the real time. You can ask this to the BSA, business analyst. So business analyst knows the business and they know which columns of these two tables needs to be joined. You can ask them, see, I don't know, like technically I can write code, I can write SQLs, it's all done. But the thing is, I don't know what is the join condition, join key for these two tables. Can you give me the columns? So the BSAs will give it to you. Right? Fine. So sometimes people will think identify the common columns is the scope of the technical person. It's not mandatory. It's not a mandatory scope. Okay. Fine. Now let's write the code. So I'll just put my magic command. So first I'll write select, but nothing in the select. First let's complete the query from first table. Okay, first table employee. Okay, and I'll give an alias name as E. Now I'll put left join. The reason why I'm just giving a left join here, left table is the employee table. Okay, this table. Okay, this table. Right table is employee UNI. The reason why I'm doing a left join is because you need to get null for the names which is not having the unique ID in the left side. Right? So when you do a left join, what will happen? For joined record, it will return the output. For not joined record, it will give you null. That's the reason we are giving left join, because our employee table is in the left. Okay, because based on the left table's name only, we are just giving the output, right? So that's why I'm just going with the left join. Okay, now left join on which table? Employee UNI. I'll give alias name as EU. Now you have to define the join condition, right? So that means E.id equal to EU.id. Okay, it's all done. Now the select part is, see, this table is E. Employee is E. We have this ID column, and then employee UNI, we have ID column. So I'm just joining that two condition. Okay, fine. So now in the select, they are expecting us to give the name and the UID. So name comes from the first table. That means E.name, comma. Okay, first they are asking us the UUID, right? Okay, so EU dot so UID comes from second table, so unique ID. Okay, EU. Why EU? EU is the alias name for the second table, comma E dot name. Okay, let me run this code. So unique ID alias for 1 or 2 Bob. For the rest, we are getting null, right? Because it's not matching. So this is what their expectation. And here, if you see in the question, the order can be anything. So you don't want to, if you want, you can just do order by this ID. You can do it, but any order means then we can leave it. Okay. So first question is successfully completed. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, so we are in SQL 50 Leetcode series, and in part 2 video. So part 2 is like basic joins, and that we are just going to discuss the next problem, product sales analysis one. Already the previous problem has been discussed. So you can find the complete playlist link in the description box of this video. Fine. So let me just take you to this problem, which we call it as product sales analysis 1. And we have two tables, sales and product. And if you just get into the problem and solution, right? If you see, write the solution to report the product name, year, price of each sale ID in the sales table. Okay, so if you see here, right, this table, right, so if you see, they're asking for product name. So product name belongs to product table, and then year, price and sale ID, year and price belongs to sales table. So that means they're asking 3 columns in the output. So one is product name, year, and then price. Right, so that means you have to join these two tables, and to do the join, you need to find out the common column. Right, so what is the common column here? So if you see here, we have product ID, and here also product ID. So in many of my videos, I used to say this: when I say common column, it's not about the name. So you should not check, okay, the name is same in both the tables, and that means only this is a common column. No, it's not based on the name; it's based on the values inside it. right? A column name can be anything. So here instead of product ID, it could be something else, and here instead of product ID, it could be something else. Okay. So in the real time, the tables, the column name may or may not be same. So you have to identify which column that we have to use to join these two tables. And if you are not aware of it, business analyst will know. So you have to check with the business analyst. So I'm just building in this ETL pipeline where I have to do a join between these two tables. Tell me what is the join column for the table. You can check with them. Okay, fine. So now the thing is, like, imagine that you have two tables, one is sales and product, and you have to do a join based on product ID. Okay, so you have to do a join, and here we are not going to do a left join or right join, because if you see here, right, this table has 3 records, and this table, product table, is also having 3 records, and output you have only 3 records. There is no additional rows and which has a null, right? So if you just do a left join, right, only in the left table, whatever the join that you have in the right table, you will get it, and the rest all values will be in null. Same for right join as well, but here they didn't mention anything like that, so we'll just go with full join, just a join. Okay, so now I have the DDLs, create, insert DDLs here. Let me just show you. Okay, so if you see here, I have a product table and then sales table. I have respective inserts also. Let me do a select and show you. So if you see here, we have 3 products here, but 6 sale ID here. It's not equal. So 3 records, 3 records. No, I have 6 records in the sale. Whereas if you see here, right, product ID 1 and 2 is like repetitive. Okay, so now let's do a join and get only the product name, year, and price. Okay, so just let's start with the query. Okay, select. Let me first complete the join pod, and then we can add the columns in the select. Okay, so now from products, I'll give an alias name as P, and then join sales, alias name as S, on what? So P dot product ID equal to S dot product ID. Okay, so now let's come back to the select part. So they are expecting us to get the product name first. Okay, product name belongs to product, so that means P dot product underscore name, comma, S dot year, comma, S dot price. Okay, so order can be anything, so I'm not giving any order here, or you can do order by and you can leave it by default as ascending also, or you can change it to DESC, descending. Okay, let me run this. Okay, so if you see here, okay, so okay, I'm sorry, so the table name is just products, sorry, product, it's not products. Okay, let me run this. Okay, so if you see here, I'm getting 6 records, whereas if you can see, laptop and phone is repetitive. That's the reason, because here one product ID 1 is 2 times and 2 is 2 times, but they are in different year, 2020 and 2021. So that's why I'm getting 6 records. Purposefully I added like 3 more additional records, because in the question, in the Leetcode, it is not like that. See, in the Leetcode, in the interview, right, the interviewer will give you the same problem, but the data set will be different. So you have to get practiced with such scenarios also, right? Okay, fine then. So let's move on to the next problem. Hi. So the next problem, so we are in Leetcode SQL 50, which is part 2, the basic joins, and we are in the third problem. Okay, customer who visited but did not make any transaction. So imagine there is a store. Okay, there is a store, and whenever a customer visits to the store, the shop owner, the store owner, will give a visit ID, a visitor ID, a visitor pass, a token, whatever it is, right? And the particular visitor, if he make a transaction, then he will get a transaction ID. Okay, so that means whenever a visitor enter into the store, he will get a visitor ID, and whenever he does the transaction, he get the transaction ID. So now what the shop owner is asking is, so I need a list of customer details who visited my store but didn't do any transaction. So that is the question. Okay, so let me just get into the problem page. So you can see here we have transaction table and visitor table, visit and transaction table, and the problem is, write a solution to find the ID of the user who visited without making any transaction, and the number of times they made these types of visit. That means we have to give the number of occurrence of the customer who visited. 2 times means 2 times, 3 times means 3 times, means he visited 2 times or he visited 3 times, but he didn't do any transaction. Okay, so now if you see here, I have a visitor table and then a transaction table. Okay, so in these two tables, the visit ID is a common column. Okay, so always I used to say this, So when we say common column between tables, a common column is used to join these two tables, and that means the common column is not like only the column name should be matched. No, column name can be anything. The values inside the column name makes us the eligibility to join the table. And if you don't know what is a common column, you can check with business analyst in your team. They will give you the column details to join. Then you can write a query or code, whatever it is. So here the visit ID is common between these two tables, and you can see here customer ID. So every customer will have a customer ID, and they visit to the store, they will have a visit ID also. And I maintain another table transaction where I will have the visitor ID but not the customer ID, but then I will have the transaction ID of the particular customer who made the visit and purchased the item. Okay, let's take number 1. So number 1 visit ID is there in a transaction table. Yes, it is there. That means the visitor 1, the customer name is 23. Imagine customer name is 23 and his visit ID is 1, and he made a visit. Also he purchased for 910 rupees. He made some purchase, and the transaction ID of that particular visitor is 12. That means you should not consider this one because he visited and he made a transaction. Right, so the question is you have to get the ID of the user who visited without making transaction is what you have to give. Now the next ID 2, and I find 2 in transaction table, so I should not give this ID also. And next to 4, so the customer 30 visited the store, so he got a visit ID 4, but the 4 is not part of the transaction, and that means you have to return 30. And the next to 54, so 54 if you see, right, his visit ID is 5. So 5 is here in the transaction table, but 3 times. So in the 5, as a customer 54, he visited the store and he got the visitor ID as 5. And in the same day, he made 3 transactions. But here is the catch. Here is the catch. So you can see the customer 54, 2 more entries are there and with different visit ID. So 54 with 7 visit ID, 54 with 8 visit ID. The 7 and 8 is there in the transaction table? No. So that means totally the customer 54 visited 3 times. So visit ID 7, visit ID 8, that time he didn't buy anything. But then from the visit ID 5, he made 3 transactions. So that means even 54 visited twice, but then he didn't do any transaction. So you have to return 54 customer also. And you have to say the count is 2. See output. 54 visited 2 times because he visited 2 times. And the third time only he bought something. And 30 visited only 1 time, 96 visited only 1 time. So this is what you have to write. So now I'll show you the query. So I just made all the inserts and the selects. You can see here visit and transactions. Now this is, I'm going to show you a 2-step. So first let me do a join. Select from, okay, from visits V, left join. So I'm doing a left join because, so when I do a left join, it gives the matched value with the right table. For the remaining not matching, it will return null. So I need null. Here null has to be get returned. Then only I will come to know, okay, these are the customer who visited but didn't purchase anything. So we need null. So I do a left join with the transactions table T on. So visit ID is what we have to do a join. So v dot visit ID visit underscore ID equal to T dot visit underscore ID. Okay, so now in the select, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the customer ID. So customer ID belongs to V. Okay, so V dot customer ID. So now I'm going to add T dot visit ID. Okay, so T is the second table. Okay, so when I just, okay, let me first do a V visit ID, V dot visit ID. Okay, first I'll do V dot visit ID. So both the column you are taking it from the first table only, right? So if you see the output, right, so I'm getting transaction ID, visit ID, both, because whatever it's there in the first table, I'm getting it. But the thing is, I'm not getting the null value in the visit ID because I'm just selecting V dot visit ID. I'm not selecting T dot visit ID. Okay, V dot visit ID has the data for all the customers, right? So now what I'll do, I'll change this V to T, okay, from the joined table. Okay, see here, if you see, right, whichever customer ID got null, so notebook is showing as none, but actually it is null. So whichever visit ID is null, and the equivalent customer ID is what you have to give as output, you have to show as output. But that means, so this visit ID column is part of transaction, doesn't have the entry for the visit ID. So that means the equivalent customer ID is the answer. So 30 as a customer who didn't who visited the store, but then because this 30 had a visit ID entry in the visitor table but not in the transaction table, that's why here it is null. So that means 30 customer visited the store but didn't make any purchase. And then 54, if you see, 54 visited 2 times but then he didn't do any transaction, and 96 he visited 1 time but then he didn't do any transaction. So that means, so this is the visit ID null is the condition. So visit ID null is the condition, and also you have to do a count. So how to change the query now? So now what you have to do is, so after this you have to write a condition where t dot visit id, so you have to use t dot visit id as a condition is null. So you have to get the null record only, but that is from t dot visit id from the transaction table, because for that only you got null. And then you have to do a group by, I'll tell you why. So I'll tell you why. So group by, because I'm going to get the count of visit id but not from the t. You should not use t, it should be from v. Okay, is it correct? If I say v, which is correct? Yes, that is correct. You have to use v dot visit id only. Okay, you have to count it because v dot visit id has the entries. So then only I can able to count. But the condition is t dot visit id is null. Okay, so group by, because you use count. Okay, I'll give a alias name, no underscore transaction. No underscore transaction. Group by, you have to use v dot customer id, because without group by, if you run an aggregation in the select, you will get an error. So now if I run it, I'll be getting the output. See, 30 one time. Okay, one time. 96 visited 1 time but didn't do any transaction. 54 visited 2 times, so I'm giving the count but no transaction. And you may get a question, why here count of v visit id? I will put t visit. Okay, let me put t dot visit id, but you will get 0. So when you put t dot visit id, you will get 0 because there is no visit id. The visit IDs with respect to 30, 96, 54 are null. So you will not get any value because you have the initially I showed t dot visit id in the select just to show you that there are null records. But now that is part of the condition. See here in the where condition. So here you have to put v dot visit id because that only has the count of the user who visited the store. Okay, so now you have to put v dot visit id only in the select. Okay, so this is an interesting problem. So let's jump into the next problem. So the next topic, so we are in SQL 50 Leetcode and part 2 video basic joins, and the next problem is rising temperature. So if you see here, the rising temperature, like it's a join problems, but then we do have one table only. Just see, it's just a one table. Right. So you have to do a self join. So you have to do a join with the same table. So write a solution to find all date respective IDs with higher temperature compared to previous dates. That means only yesterday. Okay, only yesterday. So the time difference between today and yesterday is just 1 day, right? So now if you see, like we have input ID, record date, temperature. So if you see, right, 2015 January 1st is 10 degrees the temperature, and the second day it's 25. So you have to get 2. And then again third record is 013, and then fourth record is 04, and third day it is 20, and fourth day it is 30. So you have to get 4 compared to yesterday. So today is should be like higher temperature. Yes, so 2 and 4 only you should get. You should not get 2, 3, 4. You should get only 2 and 4. Okay, so this is the problem. Okay, so if you see here, right, so I have the inserts and then I did a select. So first I want to show you something. So first I need to get the difference of a date. Okay, so between days, right? So generally how we do that in SQL, right? So we have something called date diff, and then you can pass the date. So let me just pass the date and quotes. Okay, and I change this 2 to 1 to 2, and then again this. So now this date diff will give the difference, time difference. So it just gives 1. That means it's just a 1 day difference. Okay, so we need to use this in the join condition. So now let me just write the SQL. So select, first I'll write the join select from weather as W1.
Okay, so alias I'm giving w1 and I'm just doing a join on whether the same table but alias is 2 on the condition is this date diff. Okay, I have to give this date diff equal to 1, but then you have to remove this hard coded value to record date. So record date means w1 dot record date equal to comma w2 dot record date it should be. Okay, so w1 dot record date comma w2 dot record date. Right, so you have to run this, but then the thing is like, okay, let's add the select also. They are expecting us to give only the id, right? So w1 dot id, and I'm also going to do something. So I'm just going to add the temperature as well. Okay, so first one I'll add w1 dot temperature as I'll just put w1 underscore temperature comma w2 dot temperature, and I'm giving the alias name as temperature as w2 underscore temperature. Okay, now let me run this. See, when I run this, I'll be getting 3 also as part of the output. Okay, so because I'm just doing the time difference of 1, so one day time difference, higher percentage of temperature I should get. In that case, this is correct, but I should not get 3. I should get only 2 and 4. Right, so then you have to add one condition. If you see here, right, w1 dot temperature is 25. 25 is a temperature which was equal to the second record, right? And then if you see here, we have 10. Right, so 10 is the previous day's record. Okay, so now what you have to add as part of this join, right? So where, okay, so w1 dot temperature greater than w2 dot temperature. So when you do this, the third record will go, because if you see here, 20 is not greater than 25, right? So this record will go off. So I'll just run this. See, 2 and 4 only I'm getting. So in the select, I should not add any of this because that is what the expectation. So I remove this and I'll run it. 2 and 4. That's it, guys. So we first need to find the difference of the day, and then I have to add this where condition. Else you will get the third record also. Okay. So now let's move on to the next question.
Hi, so the next topic that we gonna discuss in SQL 50 part 2, which is basic joins. In that we are currently looking into this average time of process per mission. Okay, so if you just see this problem, right, this problem is very easy, but the question seems to be very tricky, but then it is very easy problem. They have only one table, you have to do a self join. So if you see, there is a factory website that has a several machine, each running the same number of process. If I have 4 missions, each mission will have the same number of process running. Okay, write a solution to find average time each mission takes to complete a process. Okay, now you have to find the average time that it takes to complete a process. Now we have to split that into 2 actually. So the time to complete a process, end time and start time. So they, for every process they give an end time and start. So you have to find out the completion time by subtracting end time minus start. So why end time first? End time will have the greater number, greater timestamp. So end time minus start. So then average time, how you have to find? So the average time is calculated by the total time to complete every process in a mission, divide by the number of process that we were running. Okay, so if I show you the table, you will easily understand. The resulting table should have mission ID along with average time, alias processing time, which should be round with 3 decimal places. Okay. Now, if you see the very first column, forget about the rest all column, mission ID. You have 3 unique missions, like mission 0, but you have 4 entries, but just consider it as unique. So mission 0, 1 and 2. So totally 3 missions. And each mission, if you see the process ID, in 0th mission, I have 0 and 1. That means in each mission, 2 processes are running. One is 0 and one is 1. And you can ask me why I have 2 occurrence of 0 and 2 occurrence of 1. The reason is, see, when the process starts 0, they are just marking it the start timestamp. And then when the process ends, right, they are maintaining an end timestamp. So start and end they are capturing, and that's why for every process you have 2 entry. So that means in mission 0 you have 2 process, 0 and 1. And same way in 1 you have 2 process. In mission 1 you have 2 process, mission 2 you have 2 process. Okay. So now you can see the formula behind this problem, right? If you see mission 0, average time is, so first you have to take 0th process in the 0th mission, you have to do end minus start, right? End minus start. So end of 0th missions, 0th process is 1.520. See this one, and then minus 0.712. Then same thing you have to do for number 1 process. So 4.120 minus 3.140.
So after minus subtracting these two, you have to do a sum of these two output. And finally, you have to divide that by 2 because for each mission, you have only 2 processes. So that you have to use to divide to get the average. Right. So this is very simple. So similarly for 1 and 2 missions also, you have to do the same. Now I have the create and insert and I have the select. So you can see this is the select. So let me first write the SQL for this. So select. Okay, it's the self join. Before starting select, let me just complete the join. So from activity A, join activity B. Okay, on. So A dot mission ID. Okay, A dot mission ID is equal to B dot mission ID. Okay, so A and B. A means first record, B means second record. Okay, for all the columns. Okay, and then next, and A dot process ID. Okay, A dot process ID equal to B dot process ID and A dot activity type equal to start. Okay, so this is an enum. So the activity type is enum. Just have only 2 values, start and end, hard coding values for all record. This will be get populated. That's a purpose of enum. Start and B dot activity type equal to end. Okay, so B dot activity type equal to end. So in the select A dot mission ID, okay, comma A dot process ID, okay, comma. Okay, so now what you have to do is you have the timestamp, right? Timestamp, as I told you, second record is B, first record is A. So that means B dot timestamp denotes the end one minus A dot timestamp denotes the start one as processing time. Processing underscore time. Now I'll just run this code. Okay, so if you see the output, right, mission ID we have only 2, but initially the mission ID was 4, right? But now what we did is for 0 and 1 we just calculated the start and end time. So for every mission, right, so for each of this mission the process ID will be 1, like for 0 1 time, 1 1 time. So for 4 records it got reduced to 2, right? So in 0 mission, so 0th process took this much time, and in 0th mission first process took this much time. So we are having only the completion time, but we have to find the average time, right? And also like I have to get the 3 decimal points. Okay, so that means now I make this as a temporary table with processing underscore time as, so I just use a with class. That means it's like a temporary table. Now select from, so select from this processing time. Okay, now in the select, what I'm going to do, A dot, sorry, not A, because I'm not giving any allies. So from processing time, so select mission ID, comma, average of this processing time, and they're asking for 3 decimal points. So 3, so you have to put round off. Okay, round off, I use the round function, round off 3 as processing underscore time. Okay, and since you use an average, which is an aggregate function, so non-aggregate columns in the select you have to do a group by, else you will not have the output. So you should do group by mission ID. Okay, now I'll run this. Okay, if you see 0 1 and 2 and the total average time, so average time for the 0th missions process is 0.894 and so on. So this is what the answer, expected answer with respect to the Leetcode question also. So this is very easy and straightforward question. Question seems to be tricky, but then the answer is really good. Now let's move on to the next problem. So we are in SQL 50 part 2 video, which is basic joins. In that we are using, we are just looking into the problem employee bonus. So which is very easy and simple, straightforward question only. So we have like 2 tables, employee and bonus. So the problem is write a solution to report the name and bonus amount of each employee with a bonus less than 1000. Okay. So if you see here, right, I have an employee table and the bonus table. So obviously you have to do a join between these 2 tables with employee ID, because that is a common column that we do have. Right. So 3 and and the mainly I'm going to do a left join by considering employee table in the left, and then only I will be getting null when it is not matched with the bonus table. Okay, so now if you see here, right, 3. So does 3 is occurred in bonus table? No. That means Brad will get null value. See, Brad null expected output. And then 1. So 1 doesn't have the value, and that means 1, and then John. So John will get the null value because that is not a matching record. And then for 2, yes, matching, which is Dan. So you will be getting Dan. And then here 500. Okay, 500. And then next thing is 4 Thomas. Yes, 4 is matching. So you will be getting Thomas 2000. But the condition here is you have to get the records only bonus with less than 1000. So you should not get Thomas as output. Okay, now just let's write the query. So I have the inserts, and you can see the select here for the employee table and the bonus table. Okay, let me write the query. So select. So first let me do a join. So join, that is employee table from employee alias name, left join bonus, which is B. And obviously it is going to be common condition is employee ID. So E dot EMP ID equal to B dot EMP ID. Right. So now in the select part, I should select name. So E dot name, comma B dot bonus. Okay, let me run this. So if you run this, right, you will be getting all 4 records, out of which like these 2, John and Brad is none, but then Dan is 500 is okay. But still, why I'm getting Thomas? Because I haven't added that condition. So var B dot bonus less than 1000. So now what will happen, you will get only 1 record as output because of this condition. So you will get only Dan because that is the only record which is matching, and then your condition is less than 1000. So obviously 500. So you need to get the other null records also, right? So that means you have to add or B dot bonus is null. So that means you have to get the records which is less than 500, sorry, less than 1000, and also you have to get the bonus which are like null. So I have to use or. So now instead of or, if I put just and, right, you will get 0 records, nothing, because all the records should match less than 1000 as well as null. So we don't have such records, right? So we cannot use and here. So it should be or. Okay, so then you will be getting it, right? So which is very easy. The magic here is the where condition only, right? So this is an interesting problem. So that's all. Let's move on to the next problem. So now we are going to discuss SQL 50 part 2 basic joins. In that we are looking into the problem student and examination. So this is kind of, they mentioned it as easy, but it's a tricky question actually, and the implementation too, right? So okay, fine. So if you see here, right, they have 3 tables, student table, and then subject table, and then examination table, but you will not find any join key between subject and student. So that's a catch here. Fine. So write a solution to find the number of times each student attended each exam, right? So you have to, like, for each exam, how many times they have attended. Okay, and the number of subject that each student should use to attend is constant. That is, there is no change. So this line you have to underline. So the number of students and the number of subjects what they have. So if they have 3 subjects, all students should attend 3 subjects. If they have 4 subjects, all students should attend 4 subjects. So the subject is constant, there is no change. But the question is, how many find the number of times each student attended each exam. Okay, fine. So now I just did insert, select, and create. So you can see all the 3 tables: student, subject, and then examination. So I'm just going to break this first. Okay, first I need to assign for each student. I have to assign all these 3 subjects first of all. So that means Alice will have 3 entries of subject, Bob will have 3 entry because of the subject, Alex will have 3 entry, and then John will have 3 entry. To do that, what to do? So we have to do a join between subject and student table, but the join is cross join, no condition, nothing, just cross join. So select. So first let me frame the join query. So select from students. Okay, students S. It is going to be cross join with the table subject. That's it. So I'll name it as SUB, and now let's just add the columns in the select student underscore ID, and then S dot student underscore name, and subject dot subject underscore name. That's it. Okay, let me run this.
See, now if you see here, right, I am doing a cross join without any condition. That's the catch of the cross joiner. See, I am assigning all the subjects to each user. Okay, so here if you see, right, this subject table is very important. You may think, why we need the subject table directly, we can join student and examination table, right? But then how you will know how many subject is mandatory for each student? Right, let me explain one more point on this question when I come to examination table. So first my job is to, I have to assign subjects to all the students. So that means Alice will have 3 entry, Bob will have 3 entry, Alex will have 3 entry, John will have 3 entry, because you have 3 subject. If there is 4 subject, then each user will get 4 entries. Okay, so now the second part, let me just copy this, and the second part of the query is, now I'm just going to do a left join with examination. So I'll make this output as a left table. Okay, so now I'm going to join that with examination. Join examination, let me name it as E on s dot student underscore id equal to E dot student underscore id and sub dot subject underscore name equal to E dot subject underscore name. Okay, so that means I'm just joining the student ID and from the student table and the examination table student ID. Okay, and then again I'm joining the subject name and then subject name from the examination, subject name from subject table. So you think that I'm joining directly with the subject table here? No, actually I'm joining this with the previous output. That's where we did this cross join stuff. Okay, now this sub dot subject name is not coming from the actual subject table, it's been coming from the previous output. Okay, fine. So now let me just run. Okay, before that I have to add one more column in the select, which is E dot subject name. So subject name from the examination table. Now let me run this. So now if you see, right, Alice has a subject programming and he attended. Okay, let me give an Alice name, exam underscore attended. Okay, now I'll run this. Okay, now if you see, Alice, he has a subject assigned to him programming and he attended. Okay, and then again physics as a subject is assigned to him. Yes, he's attended. And Alice again, like one more time he attended. Okay, and Alice attended 3 times max. Right. So now the final output, how you need to give, right? So you should say like how many programming that Alice attended, total count. That is what they're expecting. So let me add this exam attended, that is the E dot subject name inside the count. When you add a count, when you add a aggregation, then you have to use group by. So group by s dot student id, whatever it is there in the select, and s dot student name, subject name. Yeah, subject dot subject name. Let me add everything here. Okay, and then they are expecting us to maintain some order. Student id, subject name. Okay, order by s dot student id, s dot student id, and then I have to use subject dot subject name. Okay, fine. So now if I run this, right, you will see like Alice attended max for 3 times, physics for 2 times, programming 1 time. Bob max attended only 1 time and physics he didn't attend, and programming 1 time. And Alex didn't attend anything. See, now let's try to do one more thing. Just forget about the subject table. Just consider only the student table and the examination table. Let's take Alex. Okay, 6. Do you have any entry for 6 in the examination table? No, right? That's why if you see for Alex in the final table for all 3 subjects, it's 0. Right? And without subject table, as I already told you, see, without subject table, you cannot frame subjects for the students. See, students, for each student, as per the university, for each student, see, as per the university, right, for each student, all these 3 subjects need to be assigned. Okay, imagine there is no subject table. Okay, and then you are just doing a join between student table and examination table. If you see here, right, 2 Bob. Okay, let's take 2 Bob. Bob attended programming, and then Bob attended max. And what about physics? And I will never come to know whether Bob is supposed to attend physics or not. I will never come to know, right? Because subjects have been not assigned to him. The timetable itself missing. Right. So that's the reason first I have to do a cross join for student and the subject table. I have to bring all these subject for each user so that the record size the count will get increased, and then I have to do a left join with the examination table. I hope this clears for you. And that's all. This seems to be very kind of a tricky question and the implementation, but they have marked it as easy, but it's not actually easy for a typical fresher, especially when he or she attend the interview, right? So that's all with respect to this, and let's get into the next problem. So today I'm going to show you an interesting SQL problem. This is asked in companies like Walmart and Amazon. So let's get into the problems. So you have employee table where each employee can have a manager, of course. So every employee can have a manager, and the employee can report to another employee. That means you as an employee, you are reporting to another employee, and he could be a manager, right? So for end of day for the company, you both are an employee, right? And include possibly themselves self-reporting. Maybe your manager doesn't have any manager for him, so he's like do a self-reporting. So certain cases are there in the companies. So now what is the thing that you have to find here is you need to find all the managers who have at least 7 direct reports under them. That's the problem statement. Now I am Gautam and I am a manager and I have 10 reports under me, then my name should come. So Gautam as an employee, I have only 3 reports, then my name should not come because mine is not like I don't have more than 7 or equal to 7 people reporting to me. So the condition is at least 7 direct. That means greater than or equal to. Okay. So fine. Now let's see the data. So this is the data of the employee table. So I have employee ID, employee name, manager ID. So 1 is the employee ID for Allies and the manager ID for that particular employee is 3. That means this manager ID is nothing but the employee ID of the manager. Okay, so now let me just explain. Just give me a second. Let me just take my pen. Okay, so if you see this manager ID is nothing but the employee ID of the manager. Now, if you take for alias, 3 is the manager ID. Now, what is the name of this 3 to the equivalent employee ID is Charlie. So that means Charlie is manager for alias. Now, let's take Bob. Okay, it's again 3. So that means Charlie is manager for both alias and Bob. So, is there any other 3 occurrence? No. That means 3 occurred only 2 times. Okay, next. If you take Charlie, right, the employee ID, the manager ID is 4 and the equivalent employee ID is David. So now if you take David manager ID is 5 and that means Eve. Just a second. Okay, Eve. So Eve is manager for David. Then who is manager for Eve? It's again 5. That means self-reporting. So Eve is manager for himself, self-reporting. Right. Now how many 4 we have? Occurrence 1, 2 and 3. So 4 occurred 3 times. That means 4. Who is 4? David has like 3 reporters and 3, which is Charlie has 2 reporters. So we cannot include these managers in our output because they don't have at least 7 reports to them. Now let's take 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means 5 occurred 10 times and that means 5. Who is 5? Eve has 10 reports under him, including himself, right? So that means our output should be Eve equal to 10. So Eve 10. This should be my output. Okay. So just a second, let me delete this. Fine. Now let's just get into the query part. Okay, so let me give my magic command SQL. Okay, select first. Let me frame the join part. So from employees, I give EMP as an ally's name and then join employees again, but E. Now the condition is so EMP dot manager ID equal to E dot employee ID. So this is the join condition, right? So now in the select, I will be giving E dot employee name as manager name. Let me give an alias manager name, comma, count of
EMP, okay, count of EMP dot employee underscore ID as report underscore count. Okay, so I'm just getting the count of employee ID and then employee name. But if you see here, I'm using count for one column, and then in the select there is one non-count, that is non-aggregated column, and that means you will be getting an error if I run this, because you need group by for the non-aggregated column. So that means group by, you have to add e dot employee name. So the group by should happen based on the employee name for the employee ID count which you are getting. Now if you run this, right, you will be seeing Charlie 2, David 3, Eve 10. That means if you take this particular employee ID, so what the condition, joint condition is, manager ID equal to employee ID. So whatever the manager ID that employee ID has, only that will come. That means 3, 4 and 5 will come, right? So you'll be getting 3, 4 and 5 only. So now you are getting the count of this 3, 4 and 5, and then based on that you are aggregating the employee name. That means you are, so now you are getting the count of this employee ID and the employer name, and then you are grouping with the employee name. That means, so how many occurrence of 3? 2. So who is 3? Charlie. So that means Charlie 2. And how many occurrence of 4? Which we have already seen, right? So 3 occurrence of 4. Who is 4? David. So David is 3 times, right? So 4 occurred 3 times. So 3. Now Eve. So 5 occurred 10 times. So who is 5? Eve is 5. So Eve 10 times. But what is the final output they asked us is, we need to get only the manager name which has at least 7 reportees. That means still you have to add some more thing in the query, having count of emp dot employee underscore ID greater than or equal to 7. Okay. Now if I run this, I will be getting Eve 10. So this is the final thing they have asked us, right? So now we have learned how to do a self join and then group by and then the having, and we used count aggregation as part of it. So
Hi. So today we are discussing about this Leetcode SQL 50 part 2 video, which is basic joins, and we are in the last problem, confirmation rate. Okay, so let me first explain you what is this. So personally, what I feel with this problem statement, right, they haven't given a proper use case. Actually, the problem was very neat and clear, but then they haven't given a proper use case actually. So if you see here, right, I have two tables, sign up and confirmation, right? So that means, like, what is sign up, what is confirmation? So I thought, like, okay, they would have explained it properly, but then I couldn't see like proper explanation. So the problem is, write a solution to find the confirmation rate. And here the above paragraph, they have the explanation. So the confirmation rate of user ID, so they started explaining the like how to do that. But the thing is, my assumption was there is a sign up table, so people are like sending some sign up request, some message request they are sending, and in the second table, for whichever user they sent a request, if it is confirmed or timed out or what are all the status of that request, right, it will be stored here. So now if you see here, they want us to find the confirmation rate. So how to do that? So they are giving the formula. So confirmation rate of a user is number of confirmed message divide by, so number of confirmed message of each user divide by total number of requests the user has sent. Okay, so the confirmation rate of the user that did not request any confirmation message, if the user is part of the table but he didn't send any request, then we have to put 0. And then when I do this division, this formula, right, the output should be with decimal points. They are expecting us to give in decimal with 2 decimal places. After dot, you have to put 2. Then we have to use round function also. Fine. So now I will explain you with the data set. So this is input, and then the, which is sign up table, and then the confirmation table. So timestamp they have given us given this in the question is because they want to confuse us. So timestamp is doing nothing here. Okay, so 3 user ID 3. Okay, so here if you see for the 2 table, the common column is user ID. In many videos I've told this thing. First of all, when there is a join concept comes into picture, you have to identify the common column between these two tables. So common column, some people used to think always a common column should have the same column name in both the tables. So in the real time, it won't work that way. A column will be different, but the values for that particular column will match. So as being a data engineer or a data analyst or data scientist, if you don't know the common column, you can check with business analyst, BSA. Okay, so they will give you the common columns. Okay, and then you can write your code and you can give it to them. So even though this is an interview series, but I'm just explaining. So fine. So if you see 3 here, and in user ID confirmation table, I have 2 times 3. That means user 3 sent 2 requests, out of which 2 both timeout. Okay, and user 7, okay, user 7 sent 3 requests because I have 3 7 here, and all the 3 message request he sent is got confirmed. And then user 2 sent 2 requests, out of which 1 got confirmed and 1 timed out. And user 6 didn't even send any request, so we have to put 0. And even for the 3, right, user 3, both the request, all the requests what he sent, the user 3 is timed out. Then for that also we have to put 0. Fine. See output, 6 is 0, 3 is 0, 7 is 1. Why 7 is 1? So the division, what is the division here? Total number of message the user sent divided by total confirmed message. That means user 7 sent 3 message requests and all 3 got confirmed. That means 3 divided by 3, which is 1. Okay, so that's why 1. So here you can see the explanation. So whatever I said is what in the explanation. So if you take user 2 made 2 requests, out of which 1 was confirmed and another is timed out. So that means 1 divided by 2. So 0.5. Okay, so let's get into the practical. So I have the selects, insert, create table, everything. So now let's start with this. Okay, so now I'll start with a basic join first. Select from sign up. So let me just copy this. Sign up S left join confirmation. Okay, on both the table has user ID. So S dot user ID equal to C dot, okay, confirmation I haven't given any alias, so I just give C dot user underscore ID. Okay, so in the select, I'm going to select S dot user ID, and then we can give C dot user ID also. Okay, and then so we can print this action also. Okay, so C dot action. So now I cannot give you in, so this problem is somewhat like medium hard, so I cannot give you in one query. So let me split this problem solution into multiple steps. Okay, so now user ID 2. So user ID 2 sent a request. One is confirmed and one is timeout. And user 3 timeout, 2 times, both 6 none. So user 7 confirmed, and confirmed. All the 3 got confirmed. Okay, now what I'm going to do? Now I'm going to do the count of user ID. Count of which user ID? C, because C is where the confirmation message was there. So count of, and the alias name what I'm going to give, total request, because we are now finding the total request of each user. Okay, so now you used aggregation, right? That means you have to use group by, you have to add non-aggregated column as part of the select. Okay, now if I run this, okay, so user ID 2 totally sends 2 requests. User ID 3 total request he sent is 2, 6 nothing 0, and 7 3 times. Okay, now what is the division that we have to do? The math calculation is so confirmation rate of each user is number of confirmed message divided by total number of requests. Now we got one input, total number of requests. Now next what I have to do, right? I have to get the confirmed message. So for that I'll get all the confirmed message, and then I will be writing a case statement, and then I'll do a sum. Okay, I'll explain you. Okay, sum of, first I'm going to do sum, and then case when, okay, case when C dot action. So action is the column which has the status, okay, equal to, it should be confirmed. Okay, it should be confirmed. Then I'll put 1, else I'll put 0, and okay, so the name I'm going to give is confirmed underscore message. Okay, so or request confirmed underscore, sorry for the spelling mistake. Okay, so now I'll be running this. So now you can see here. Okay, I think I have to remove a space in the sum. Okay, fine. So yes, now it's working. So user ID 2, total request is 2, out of which 1 is confirmed. For user ID 3, total request is 2, so 0, nothing is confirmed because 3 sent 2 requests, both are timeout. 6, no request, so no confirmed request. Okay, so 0 request, 0 confirmed message. 7, 3 times sent a request, so total request is 3, confirmed is 3. Okay, now let's do the division now. So now we got both the inputs, total request also we got, confirmed request also we got. Now we have to do a division, but what I'll do, I'll just make this as a with column. Okay, so I'll put count underscore test. So when we will use with class, so with class when we will use is, I'm just creating a temporary table. Okay, kind of, so it will be available for that particular session. So select from count underscore test. Okay, so here first s dot user id, and then I have to do the division, but before that I will tell you one function. So see, select if null. Okay, so if null is a function. If so this will accept 2 argument, for example 1 comma 0. So if the first argument was null, it will return 0. Imagine I am in my table, I have a null value. So they are saying like if there is a null, substitute that with 0. So that's when we use this if null. So 1. So now I will remove this because now I am getting 1. Why? Because there is no null value. So let me change this to null, and now if I run it, I'll get 0. Okay, so why we need it now? So I am going to use if null in safe and side. If I get any null values, I should substitute that with 0. Okay, so if null. Okay, and they asked me to do a round, right? So round 2 functions. You have to be very careful in closing the respective brackets at the end. Round of confirmed message, that is confirmed request from the count test with table, divide by total number of requests. Okay, now I have to close the round function. So for round function, this is the first argument. Okay, now comma 2 round. So they said 2 decimal points, so 2. Next I have to close the if null. So I'll substitute this with 0. That means if I get a outcome as null for this, the complete division, right? I will substitute that with 0. Right, okay, as confirmation underscore rate. That's it, guys. Now I will run this. Oh, okay. So I just put s dot user id. Oh, sorry. So I just have to put just user id because this column, this with table, right? It has only 3 columns: user id, total request, and then confirmation request. So I should not put yes. Okay. Now I'll run this. So now you can see like 2, right? 0.50. Let me check the output in the Leetcode. Okay. So expected output 2 is 0.50. Okay. And then 3 is 0 because both the requests are timed out 0. 6, the 6th user didn't send any request, so 0. 7, so 7 is, see, 1 because 7 sent 3 requests and all 3 confirmed, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, so that's all, guys. So we are at the end of this part video. So I hope you really love this video. If you like this video, right, please do subscribe my channel, and my Instagram page is at thedatatech.in, and I am giving all my contact details in the description box. And in the next part video, I will start explaining you this basic aggregation functions. Thanks for watching, and I have 20 hours of data engineering video in my complete big data engineering video for free in my YouTube channel. You can just go and have a look, and I do have a lot of data engineering courses as well, so just have a look. Thanks for watching, guys.